At the Edge of Tomorrow program has been prepared with contributions and research from Cem Yaşar Atölye. Today, we are back with a very rich topic for you, artificial intelligence. It's being talked about everywhere, but we wanted to go a bit deeper. We looked at solid sources like Boston Consulting Group, Deloitte, Fortune, Harvard Business Review. We are again at the very intersection of technology and the economy. As you know, At the Edge of Tomorrow series of Cem Yaşar Atölye exists precisely to help you understand these major transformations. What we see is that artificial intelligence is no longer just a tool that speeds up tasks. It is much more than that. It fundamentally changes business models, our leadership understanding, cost structures, and even the resilience of our cities. So, how will you stand firm in this massive wind of change? Or perhaps, how will you get ahead? Let's take a look together at the critical points in these sources. First, there is a statement from Boston Consulting Group, which struck me as quite ambitious. They say that leaders should use artificial intelligence not only for efficiency, but also to fundamentally change the nature of work and even create entirely new industries. They mention 100-fold potential for returns. What do you think, Mert? Is that a bit too ambitious?
So at first listen, it sounds ambitious, but actually there are solid examples, Daria. Think of it like this. L'Oréal's personalized beauty advisor, Beauty Genius, or Catalyst AI used in Penske's fleet management. These are not just about doing the current job better, but about creating entirely new value. Boston Consulting Group is actually referring to this. Accenture CEO Julie Sweet also says something similar. She states that artificial intelligence is not a threat, but a profit opportunity. So perspective is important.
Interesting, but on the other hand, the AI strategies of giants like Apple are not very apparent. They seem more closed off. Wedbush's analysis also points to this. Salesforce CEO Mark Benioff spoke to Fortune. He says that AI agents will handle 30–50% of the work, but white-collar workers won't lose their jobs. So how will that happen? Isn't it a bit confusing?
There are definitely different strategies and forecasts. It seems there is no single solution at the moment. But one thing is clear. Artificial intelligence is incredibly effective in reducing costs. For example, from Boston Consulting Group, an energy company detects overpayments on bills instantly with AI. Or a pharmaceutical company, which reduces marketing content costs by 20–30% and shortens drug development time by several months. Imagine how big an advantage that is.
There was also an IBM example, I believe, in the support functions, wasn't there?
Yes. IBM has saved a total of $3.5 billion by using artificial intelligence in support functions. The key point here is not just automation, but redesigning the process with artificial intelligence. There may also be such potential areas in your workflows. You might want to consider it.
You're right. So we've always talked about companies and profits. Doesn't this technology have any benefit for society, infrastructure, or cities? Deloitte has a study. The figures seemed a bit frightening to me, honestly. They predict that by 2050, the global infrastructure value will reach $390 trillion, but the annual damage risk from natural disasters will also approach $460 billion. It's terrifying.
This is exactly where artificial intelligence comes into play. It can play a very critical role. For example, digital twins, that is, creating a virtual replica of the city, say, to model flood risk in advance. Lisbon, for instance, is doing this.
Wow!
Predictive maintenance, detecting and preventing faults in wind turbine energy lines before they occur, or quickly identifying forest fires with early warning systems. There is an example from Australia, where it is estimated that they could save between $100 and $300 million annually. There are also tools like Opto AI that rapidly detect post-disaster damage. Deloitte estimates that artificial intelligence could prevent approximately $70 billion in damages annually by 2050. This is an enormous potential.
That's really true. Of course, there's also the entrepreneurial side of things. That's very exciting too. For example, the Flash Dogs case I read about in Fortune. The guy's name is Kakar, a young man in his 20s.
Yes, I remember that example.
He started a startup using artificial intelligence to serve giants like Amazon with a team of 2 people. Isn't that incredible?
Is it a permanent company or just a temporary feature that everyone can easily copy? In other words, if you want to be permanent, you need to focus on a very niche, vertical area like law, similar to Harvey.ai, or integrate with an existing powerful product like Notion.ai to create your own distribution channel and ecosystem. Otherwise, it's going to be tough.
I understand. So, merely having technology is not enough. Strategy is also very critical. With such a large wave of change, leaders obviously have a lot of work to do. Boston Consulting Group's simulations have shown something interesting. There is no single change management formula that fits everyone. Is the company's structure hierarchical or more flat? What about the internal social networks? How connected are the people? The scale of change, the uncertainty, approach must vary accordingly.
Absolutely. And perhaps the most important thing for leaders to pay attention to is avoiding complacency. Boston Consulting Group says it very well. Every success has a half-life, an expiration date. The legendary CEO of Intel, Andy Grove, still has that famous saying, "Only paranoids survive." That is, constantly questioning, being open to criticism from both internal and external sources, and not hesitating to try new business models are essential. Being proactive is a must.
Of course, all of this is not easy. It can be an emotionally exhausting process for leaders. Harvard Business Review also addressed this point. They recommend emotional awareness, the ability to change perspective, and practices to keep energy fresh. And of course, there's the leader's personal behavior. Inc. magazine's incident, like the concert kiss case, meaning even the slightest move of the leader in front of the public can affect trust and reputation, and this should not be forgotten.
Very true. If you'd like, let's summarize with a small look into the future. A global artificial intelligence talent war is currently underway. According to Boston Consulting Group, the US is still in the lead, but centers like Europe and Gulf countries are making significant investments to attract the best researchers and experts. So, the competition is intensifying.
Yes, as you can see, what we call artificial intelligence is not just about codes and algorithms. We are facing a huge force that redefines strategy, leadership, costs, our cities, and almost every aspect of our lives. To understand this wave correctly, we need to be proactive and, perhaps most importantly, adapt by keeping humans at the center.
So then, one last question for you and those listening. Will you and your organization remain a temporary, easily replicable feature in this great transformation? Or will you become those who create a difference and build lasting value? I think this is the real question worth pondering.
See you next week in the new episode of At the Edge of Tomorrow.